Hello and welcome to this video, and this video is going to be called Deeper into One Size Fits All by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. So recently I did a sort of my top 10 Zappa albums, and at number one I put this. It's quite surprising actually when you take someone who's made over 100 albums and then you're going to pick the best one. You would think that would be a really difficult task, especially with someone like Frank Zappa. Coming up with a top 10 is really, really difficult. But in Zappa's case, the number one was just absolutely so obvious. It was going to be this one. Right, from day one I knew it would be this one. Do I think this is Zappa's best album? Well, it's impossible to say a best album, but I still will put this at number one. And I thought, coming off the back of that video, anyone who's watched that video, it might be interesting to, spend some time actually discussing this in great detail, because when you do these top 10s, you don't have a chance to do that, and that's what I'm about to do. So, what do we have here? Well, this album was recorded in 1973, 4, 5, right? The album came out in 1975. It's called from lots of different recordings, from what I call the George Duke Band. Although George Duke was in the band earlier, the George Duke Band is often many Zappa fans' favourite band, right? It's got slightly different incarnations, but the lineup on this is Frank Zappa on guitar and vocals, George Duke on keyboards and vocals, Napoleon Murphy Brock on flute, tenor sax and vocals, the great Chester Thompson on drums. He's also down as a guerrilla victim. Tom Fowler on bass, Ruth Underwood, the incredible Ruth Underwood on vibes, marimba and other percussion. There's a guest appearance by James Birdlegs Yeoman, I don't know who this is, on Can't Afford No Shoes. There's a guest appearance, and this guy made a number of guest appearances on Zappa albums, by Johnny Guitar Watson, who sings on San Bernardino and Andy. We're going to get back to him. And there's also Bloodshot Rollin' Red on harmonica. So when you hear a harmonica on here, you know that's him. Right, like I said, made in 1975. This album was produced between December 74 and April 75, simultaneously with our next album coming soon. I hereby pronounce myself ready to go back on the road. Frank Zappa, Easter Sunday 1975. Right, why is this number one? Well, not only does it sort of do a lot of the things that Zappa does, whereas other albums will do one thing and then another album will do something else, this sort of represents everything he does. He's at his peak with one of his best bands, and it's the band at their peak. So this is sort of the last album, really, of this lineup. You hear bits and bobs on Sleep Dirt and Studio Tan and things like that, but actually the Chester Thompson George Duke Band, this is the last time, and this band were just incredible, and they just get better and better. Zappa put albums out. I'm thinking of, he put You Can't Just Do That on Stage Anymore, can't remember which one it was, where it was the whole concert of just this band. And the reason he said is because by this point the band was like playing at an incredible level, and that's what you hear on this is a virtuosity that is so rare on albums. It also does the thing that Zappa does, which he doesn't do on every album, but he does it on here, where it pulls together studio stuff and live stuff, and Zappa edits this together in a way which nobody else has ever gone anywhere near the level of what he's done. Right, now, the title, I think, gives away something here. One size fits all. So this is almost like Zappa saying, this is the album. This is the album that really represents what I do. If you're going to have one Zappa album, you're going to get this one, because this one size will fit everybody. On the front of it, when we look at the artwork, we see a sofa standing in space. We see the hand of God smoking a cigar. The cigar represents sort of the generation before, the sort of controlling power generational class, the sort of bow tie daddy that he sings about on We're Only In It For The Money. You know, we see another finger spinning this planet and putting it into place. We see a table and chair floating in space. We see archaic diagrams. This is Zappa's creation myth. This is the universe being created, you know. And that makes the title One Size Fits All actually quite comic, you know, in terms of the sofa, but also in terms of the universe and our place in the universe. On the rear, we have a sort of, you know, there's a sort of, can you see it here? There's a sort of domestic setting here. We can see little towns, little people doing their things. We can see the earth surface. We can see all these things going on. We can see it sort of opening up and swallowing people up. And above all this stuff going on, right, we have this huge star map. And the star map is full of sort of astrological symbols, but they're not the normal ones. We've got a car, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, 2 whales, a frog, right? And they all name things like, there's an upside down duck called Cunard, there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex begonia, all right, there's someone swimming called Aquarium, okay, and then there's things like Capricorn, Sagittarius instead of Sagittarius. What does this all mean, you know? Well, this, I think, right, is a very important album because I think you could see it as almost in the middle of Zappa's conceptual continuity. So what the hell's Zappa's conceptual continuity? Well, Zappa had this idea called the big note. So this idea is that everything in the universe is just one big note, one big vibration. And, well, of course, you know, matter is simultaneously a particle and a wave. You know, God said, "Let there be light." You know, light is a wave. It's like a resonance. It's a vibration. It's a sound. The universe exists as one big note that goes on and on and on. This is not just insanity. You know, this is not just abstract Dadaist language. This does refer to the way the universe works, and Zappa's interpreting it in a certain way, that there is a note resounding, right, the big note, and his oeuvre, if I can use such a big pretentious word here, is one big artistic statement, right, that it's this one big idea and everything in it is just a tiny reflection of something else. This is why non-Zappa fans find it hard to understand Say Why or the offensive language is there, or this seems so weird, why is he going on about this for? Because they don't realise that everything in his stuff relates to something else, somewhere else, right? So you may think he's just saying some random word, but he's not saying a random word. That random word will relate to another piece of music where there is a statement relating to that word, okay? As I look at this, we see the vacuum cleaner. There's a vacuum cleaner here. That vacuum cleaner actually appears in different forms all throughout his art. So if you watch 200 Motels, you'll spot it there. What does this all mean? Well, they all mean things. Well, I don't want to go into all the other stuff. Let's start off with this album and see off the top of my head what I can interpret as we go through. So it opens up with Inka Roads. Inka Roads, I think, is my favourite Zappa track. I think in that track, straight off, it does everything that Zappa does. So you have the incredible sort of rock virtuosity, you've got the blues, you've got jazz, you've got improvisation, there's a big Zappa guitar solo, there's like modern classical elements, there's vocal stuff. And what's it about? It's about Eric von Daniken. Eric von Daniken brought a book out in the 70s that was really, really popular, that said basically aliens had come to the earth in sort of a prehistoric times and had helped us sort of developed, you know, evidence of this he had in this book. Now this book has been sort of debunked since then, but it really has put this idea of sort of ancient aliens. You can switch the television on and you can watch programs on ancient aliens. One of the evidences that he put forward for this were the Naxa lines. So these huge, you know, drawings in the Naxa deserts, which you can only see when you're up in the air, a long way up looking down. And there's also long tracks that almost look like runways carved into the desert, and they were done thousands of years ago by people who could not fly. And when you look at those people, often when you look at the drawings of their gods, it looks like people sat in spaceships. So this was the sort of Eric von Daniken book called Chariots of the Gods. So the Inka Roads actually is a reference to the markings in this desert. Okay, so what's interesting is he opens with this album having sort of all this astronomical and astrological and esoteric sort of space-time stuff going on, that he actually opens up with a song about that. And he asks a question. The first line on the album is, he said, "Did a vehicle come from somewhere out there just to land in the Andes? Question mark. Was it round and did it have a motor, or was it something different?" He's asking the question. He's not making a statement. Zappa's sort of sitting back and going, well, did it happen? This really places Zappa in a sort of critical place, which I think a lot of his detractors don't understand. He once said that he is like a regular guy that's just has driven past an event, and then someone stops him and said, "Did you see what happened down the road there?" And he turns around and goes, "Yeah, well, I think this happens." He's a regular guy commenting on the world around him. And he's not making judgments, and he's not trying to have a moral or ethical point of view on a lot of these things. A lot of the times he's just going and saying, this is the way the world is, like it or not. This is the way it is. He does have a political agenda, and it's quite strong. You know, he's quite centrist. He's quite liberal, but he's also got conservative traits as well. You know, I think he believes in, you know, people's freedom, but people's, you know, need to do the things themselves. He's got that sort of thing going throughout his music. But a lot of the times, the things he's not critiquing them. He's just saying this is a thing. You know, Eric von Daniken said this. But it's really interesting that he ties it in and makes you think about space and time and did this happen on this album, right? This track is quite incredible. It's actually was played live, but it's got overdubs in it. And the vocal overdubs are quite astonishing, really. When it gets to the guitar solo is then from a different concert, I think. And then that guitar solo then runs into a section of really astonishing vocals where you've got sort of, it's almost like modern classical music, but with this sort of comedy voices, you know. And the voices sort of state this idea where they ask these questions, you know. Did a booger bear come from somewhere out there? Did a booger bear come from somewhere out there? Did the Indians first on the bill carve up the hill? On Ruth, that's Ruth. So he's throughout it. He's also mentioning Chester Thompson and Ruth. It's both esoteric and grounded. This is basically what Zappa is. Those two things are going on at the same time. Straight away, he jumps into a track called "Can't Afford No Shoes." Now this is a good old rock track, a blues track. Zappa is as much a rock musician as he is a modern classical musician, and this song is really political. He now makes a point, you know, and again he does it in this sort of regular person narrative. I'm going to read these lyrics. Have you heard the news? And then someone says, news? What news? I can't afford no shoes. You can get a good deal on tape, somebody mentions. He's got this question and answer thing going, but in a way you'd never expect. Have you heard the news? News? I can't even afford a paper. Can't afford no shoes. So he's thinking about poverty now, you know. I went to buy some cheap detergent, some emergent nation got my load that I stowed. You know, so he's really talking about recessions, depressions, and how that affects normal people. Now, if you think when he makes a comment that comment's his. It's not. You can tell by the way he's talking. This is a regular guy talking. This is just a normal person talking and how they respond. This stance he has is absolutely fantastic. I think it's really influential when you watch something like The Simpsons. You know, the way The Simpsons critiques American society, the way they do it is the same way Zappa did it. I really miss him now. You know, you almost feel like the stuff that's going on in the world at the moment with, you know, with COVID and Trump and over here in the UK with, you know, the Brexit thing and now in the Ukraine and Putin and all this stuff, without having Zappa's voice to come in and just sort of put it all into perspective and deflate. He does things which I think is a very English thing. He's able to deflate authority, but do it in a kind way, you know. He then has a go at pyjama people. These are people who like things cosy and nice. They're the people who like to get in and snuggle down with their pyjamas and put their slippers on. Zappa's a doer, right? He's a doer. He's out there. He's not of that. This is not music, which is like, say, Fusac. It's not like, let's get him and put a nice album on. It's a statement. He's making a statement. Now, I'm not going to go through it all, but what's interesting is the contrast of those tracks on the first side. But in there is an instrumental, absolutely beautiful short tune. Zappa was incredible at writing tunes, and it's called Sofa Number 1. It's an instrumental piece. It is like classical. It's not modern classical. It's a beautiful diatonic melody, and it relates to the sofa on here, right? But it then, in exactly the same place, or is it? No, at the end of the album on side 2, we get Sofa Number 2, and it's another version of this melody, but this time sung. So he has this tune on both side 1 and side 2. I think that's very interesting that he's decided to do that. 2 short tunes, but one pure music and one full of vocals. And on that he says this: I am the heaven, I am the water, I am the dirt beneath your rollers. I am your secret smut and lost metal money down your cracks. I am your cracks and crannies. I am the clouds, I am embroidered. I am the author of all tucks and damask piping. I am the chrome dinette. He says it again. I am the chrome dinette. I am eggs of all persuasions. I am all days and all nights, which he then says 4 times. I am here, and you are my sofa. I am here, and you are my sofa. I am here, and you are my sofa. This to me is a key track. You know, it's really describing our place in the universe, I think, and really accepting all the things that there are. So when you get lines like I am all days and all nights, I am the clouds, I am embroidered, these are very poetic things. But he also says I am your chrome dinette, I am your damask piping. He's rooted in the material of the world. He's interested in absolutely everything, all the foibles and things that are in there. Now there's another very strange tune on here. I didn't want to go through them all, but there's one I want to end with, which is Evelyn a Modified Dog. Now Evelyn a Modified Dog, if I can find it, which is the second track on side 2, is only a minute long. So we've got these huge epic tunes where he's doing everything musically that possibly can happen, and he's running from the blues with Johnny Clark Guitar Watson right to sophisticated jazz and modern classical. And then suddenly we get sort of, it's almost just like Frank singing, and he's not a fantastic singer on a piano, and he says this, and it's almost like a summation of Zappa's whole oeuvre. I'm going to use that word again, sorry. And I'm going to end with this. I'm not going to explain it. It's going to be what it is, and you can interpret it how you want. Evelyn, a modified dog, viewed the quivering fringe of a special doily, draped across the piano with some surprise. In the darkened room where the chairs dismayed and the horrible curtains muffled the rain, she could hardly believe her eyes. A curious breeze, a garlic breath, which sounded like a snore, somewhere near the Steinway or even within, had caused the doily fringe to waft and tremble in the gloom. Evelyn, a dog having undergone modification, pondered the significance of short person behaviour in a pedal-depressed panchromatic resonance and other highly ambient domains. Off, she said. And with that, you should go and check out one of his earliest albums, Uncle Meat, and one of his last albums, Civilisation Phase 3, to pull all that together. As Wittgenstein said, and I'm paraphrasing him, you can only talk about certain things, and the things you can't talk about, you should just pass over, and that's what I'm about to do. Hope you enjoyed this video, my little off my head discussion, in both meanings of the word, discussion of One Size Fits All by Frank Zappa. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Thank you very much.